Sewer podcast. I'm your host, Marty Carpenter. I come to you from Iowa, just a country psychiatrist out here in flyover country doing the Lord's work, trained in the tradition of the great physician. Once again, here to talk about honesty, being honest. Yesterday we referred to honesty as a lost art form. And today, I'm going to title this one, Dig a Hole. And the reason is that when we're dishonest, it is much like digging ourselves into a hole. And I'm going to start by telling a little story about a way recently that I finally was honest with myself. Now, hey, look, I've had some mental health training. I've been around the block a couple of times with this emotional growth thing. But yes, there are still areas of my life where I am growing and attempting to listen to the good Lord and get some insight into myself and become a little bit better than I was yesterday. And one of the things that I realized is really important to me is making things. Now, I knew this from my wood shop, and I knew this from playing in bands and being a songwriter and things like that. But, ever since I was a little kid, I've always really enjoyed drawing. And I kind of repressed that, to be honest with you. I kind of had judged it as something that wasn't worthwhile and maybe I wasn't good at, so I shouldn't try. I remember kind of getting the message somewhere along the way that art class was, a free hour, and that really it was math and science that mattered. And I actually think art class was just as, if not more important in some ways than all of the hard math and sciences, because there's a concept about being a creative individual that is intimately linked with being healthy. Healthy people make things in one form or another. And I finally admitted to myself that I really wanted to paint. Now, this conjures up images of Bob Ross, doesn't it? With happy little trees. This one needs a friend over here. Talking about the squirrels he has as pets at home with his big afro. Just roll a little bit of paint there on the end of your knife and just drag it slow right there. And there's a tree, and all he needs a friend. Gonna have to make some decisions here. And so I judged it. I really did. But I couldn't stop myself any longer. I've got these kids and they like to do art. And one of the things we do when we finally decide to put down the Xbox controller is we'll sometimes make a little art. And the kids were painting one day. We had some Hobby Lobby cheapo craft paints and brushes, and we were sitting there, and I thought, well, I've got some old plywood down in the shop. I'll bring it up, and we can use that as canvas. And the kids started painting, and it was around Halloween at that time, this last October. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do something Halloween-y. I'm going to draw me a ghost or something. Maybe it'll be good enough to hang on the wall for a month and then put in a box. And so I started to paint, and I felt myself get lost pretty quickly in it. And I did make kind of a ghoul, and then I went too far and screwed it all up, and I turned it into this sort of an evil tree-looking thing. And that kicked me off. And then it wasn't long after that I found myself down in the shop, and I was looking around at some of the old leftover paint that I had and some other stuff on the shelf, and I grabbed myself a piece of plywood and I just sat down and started going with it. And I thought, I don't have any art supplies. I don't have the good stuff anyway. But what I do have is some wood filler, some spray paint, some Durham's Rock Hard Putty. I've got some of that plasti dip you put on your tool handles so it's not slippery. I've got a few junk acrylic paints and some cheapo brushes. You know what? I'm going for it. So I got all this stuff together out in front of me, got what I had, and I started making this painting. And it was deeply satisfying, and I really enjoyed it. And then I put it down for a while. I wasn't whole hog into it yet there. I was like, well, that was a one-off. I'm just going to kind of, and it kind of percolated in. I'd go down to the shop and I'd work on a wood project or something, and I'd kind of see that painting sitting over there, and I'd think, well, do you want to get back to that? Well, that doesn't have any use, does it? We need tables and chairs in this world, not art. It's not useful. And I was down there one day. I wasn't even planning on working on anything. I was in my sock feet, and I was just kind of wandering around looking for stuff, and I saw this big old sheet of plywood over there. Big, like half a full sheet. And I laid it out on the bench, and I went for it. And it felt amazing. Oh my God, it was just such a release. It was like admitting to myself finally, you want to do this, and it's okay. Just do it. Have a good time with it. Who cares how it looks? Who cares what anybody thinks about it? Who cares if it's good, so to speak? By the way, art is subjective. We talked yesterday about how Hitler took all the good art and tried to destroy it. There's just no reason to repress that, right? I mean, what would be the benefit? It would be that I don't want somebody to look at it and think ill of it and judge me. That's why I would repress it. Or I don't want to look at it and criticize it and think ill of me. And so that's why I've been repressing this urge. So I recently did a project around the house, and I had some leftover drywall mud in a 5-gallon bucket. So I went and I filled up a smaller bucket with that, and I mixed in a bunch of this deep blue aquamarine color. And I turned this mud into this deep blue color. And I went and I smeared it all over that piece of plywood. And as that color just laid out before me, and these interesting textures started to emerge, and it actually brought me to tears. I was in my shop, and this tear came to my eye because it felt like I was finally admitting to myself a piece about who I really was. And I've continued with it. I've continued to make art. I've continued to experiment with different techniques, and I'm really getting into it now. I've kind of started buying good paint, going to the art store downtown. I even befriended one of the art store clerks there. The real thing, the guy that's clearly angsty and nihilistic and is covered in tattoos and has a weird hairdo and is probably a way better artist than me. And here I am in my dad clothes with a normal haircut, and but I chatted him up, and he told me what brushes to buy, and he told me what I had to humble myself a little bit. I had to say to this guy, look, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please tell me what brushes I should buy, the most bang for their buck, and for a guy that's kind of trying to cross over into just a little bit more serious, and can you tell me what paint I need, and that sort of thing. And he did. He helped me out. And we even exchanged business cards and talked about art a little bit, and I showed him what I'd been working on, and he was like, whoa, that's really good. And it made my day. It was like, look, a legit art guy just told me my painting was good. So that painting that I did, not the big one, but the one before that, it was a smaller painting. I had built this little side table. I had it upstairs by the couch, and we use it to put our coffee on in the morning, everything. And I looked at that, and I looked at that painting I'd done, and I thought, these two belong together. So I took that painting and I glued it on top of this little side table, and I put some trim around the outside edge to make it look nice, and then I poured this layer of epoxy over the top to protect it and to give it a surface that was usable for drinks and whatnot. So Mom comes up to visit for the wedding, and she looks at it. She's like, oh, that's very, very beautiful. I would like to have that for my house. And I was torn because I really liked it. But you know what? Mom gets it. She just does. And so I shipped it down to her a week or so later. But here it is. Here's a picture of it. Mom has it down in Florida, and she's probably putting her coffee on it right now and watching the news or something. And so that's the story of me in painting. And so I'm getting into that. And tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about my Patreon account. And one of the things that I'm going to use as a reward for my donors is an original piece of artwork by yours truly that you could mock. You could mock it. That's one option. You could throw darts at it. You could hang it. You could use it. You could chop it up into little squares and use it as coasters. I mean, there's any number of things that you could do with it that would be beneficial to you. And I've also partnered with a good friend of mine. I'm good friends with both of them. He's a psychiatrist as well, and his wife makes this beautiful jewelry out of glass and coasters and things like this. And we're gonna work together as a team. And I'm going to use her work as part of my rewards as well for my Patreon page. But I'll explain all that tomorrow. But today, dig a hole. Honesty. When you're dishonest, it's like digging a hole. I think it's more like digging a mine. Have you ever dug a hole? I grew up on a farm, and one of the things we would do sometimes is we would dig post holes. And we had post hole diggers. It's kind of like two shovels bound together. And you put them into the ground and you spread them apart and you pull up some dirt and you set it over to the side and you just keep doing that over and over and over again until you get a hole that's shockingly far more deep than you think it needs to be to hold this post. And your dad's standing there and he's telling you, nope, that's not far enough. And pretty soon these things are like clear down in the hole, and all you can see when they're into the hole is just a little handle sticking up over the top of the hole like this far, like 3 or 4 inches or whatever. And it's a lot of work to dig a hole. And I remember, at some point, the family got one of these like corkscrew spiral hole digger things that went on the back of the tractor. And that then replaced the post hole digger. And that was a glorious day because you didn't have to expend any effort. And but lying is like this. You get in there a ways. You've got your story built up. And when I say lying, okay, look, I'm not talking about, hey, I did this thing and I don't want anybody to find out. Like I hid this body in the woods. I mean, yes, we might be talking about that, but I'm really more talking about the subtle ways we're dishonest with ourselves in our day-to-day life. Maybe about our work. That this is the best thing for me to be doing. Maybe this particular relationship I'm in, or maybe how I'm operating in this relationship, or maybe how I'm parenting, or maybe how I'm spending my money regularly, or can I really afford this lifestyle? Or am I overextended? I mean, these are the kinds of things. Do I even like boating? Do I even like snowmobiling? Do I even like this lifestyle that I'm building around myself? Or would I rather be doing something completely different? And so you get in there, you dig a ways, and you get in there, and you're looking for something. I just don't think we know what we're looking for. We think that there is something in there. We think we're going to find gold or treasure, that if we can just dig far enough, that there's going to be a positive outcome. But it's a fool's errand. And so we turn a corner, and we dig a tunnel this way, and we turn a corner, and we dig a tunnel that way, and it becomes this labyrinth and this maze of all these ways that we have our life laid out. And it seems like we're lost in it, and it seems like we're trapped because we don't remember the way back out again. I mean, what am I going to do? Am I going to quit my job? I've got bills. Am I going to leave this person? We've been together 5 years. Yes, I know they drink too much and they're verbally abusive, but I don't think I'd be able to pay the mortgage without them, and we have a kid. Am I gonna keep going to the store and buying $80 bottles of scotch when I don't have any money? This kind of thing. I mean, what is it going to take? What am I willing to do differently to begin to get myself out of this hole? And this is the other thing. We have this expectation that it's somehow going to be quick, and it's not going to be quick. You didn't get here overnight. I remember in my case, I was like in my 30s and, my marriage was tanking, and I had these 3 kids and a career and all this money I owed for education and etc. And I wasn't happy, and I knew something needed to change, but I had no idea what to do. And so I just camped out there in the bottom of my hole. And I got angrier and angrier, and it got darker and darker, and like canaries were flying around my head, and they were dropping dead. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, because I knew that if I made any significant change, it was going to upset the apple cart. It was going to affect my friendships. It was going to affect my parenting, my marriage, my family relationships, my finances, all of those. Every single aspect of my earthly life was going to be turned upside down if I did something definitive. And so it can be really hard, and I do empathize, and we're down there for good reasons. We're down there because somebody told us there was gold down there, right? Somebody said, hey, you know what? If you do this, it's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. It's going to change your life. You're going to get out there, and you're going to try this thing that you don't really have any interest in, and it's going to be amazing. And so you say you like it, and you do it, and before you know it, you're invested $50,000 in this hobby, let's say, or whatever, and you find out that it sucks. But now you've told people you love it. You've posted about it on Facebook a number of times. You can't just give it up. You're going to look like a fool. So there's that element. And the people down there telling you it's great, they don't want to be alone in the bottom of their hole. They want you to join them in their hole. Because misery loves company. That one's true, by the way. Although some of these little quips aren't true, but that one's true. Misery does love company. And so how do you get out? I mean, what do you do? How do you start digging yourself back out of this thing after it's collapsed on top of you? Because that's ultimately what happens. You dig this hole far and wide, and you take a lot of tortuous twists and turns, and pretty soon the ceiling is not stable, and you find yourself either collapsed on and incapacitated, or trapped in a passage, and you've got to figure out a way out. Now, there's a trick here. Now, you probably figured out I'm a God guy, and I'm a God guy for a couple of reasons. One, because I've given people literally tons of pills. I move more amphetamine and downers than most Mexican drug lords, I'm pretty sure, in this town. If you took all of it combined with me and my partners, I mean, we send a lot of it out there in an attempt to make people feel good and make their lives feel complete. And I've spoken hundreds of thousands of words of what I thought was wisdom to people in hopes that it would help them. And it frequently doesn't. Now, I'm not putting down my profession, and I do think those things have merit, but what I have come to learn is that there is a definitive solution for that which plagues us. And we don't like it very much, because it means we have to put down the shovel and let somebody else dig us out, and we're too proud to do that. We're too proud to admit we've dug ourselves into a lost mine. So you think you're going to dig yourself out, and you're going to meander back through all these tunnels that you've dug for yourself, but you need to just let him dig down to you and pull you straight up out. Now, it takes a while. Now you're down there, and you believe all these things. You believe all these lies about yourself. Every one of these tunnels represents some other story you've told yourself about you and who you are. And then God comes along and says, no, actually, your primary identity is that you are loved by me. It's not that you love fishing, that you wear, that you have a Prada handbag, that you see yourself as a victim in this way or that way, that you're whatever, a sports fan or a fan of fine literature. None of that defines you. What defines you is that you are created by me and loved by me. Now, we hear that and we're like, well, that sucks. I want to define me. I want to be the one that says who I am. Because I know, right? Look where it's gotten me. Look where I am down here with these dead canaries. This is where me thinking I know has gotten me. And God comes along and says, you know what? You're making this way too hard. I never wanted you to dig this hole. I wanted you back in the garden all along. So just let me love you. Just let me. Just let me love you and love yourself. And you find yourself seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. A little bit. Now, it doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean it's easy. You still have this planet that we're on to contend with, which is fraught with danger. It's not safe out there. There's people that want to harm you. There's people that lie, cheat, and steal. There's a lot of really amazing people. Did you guys see Oprah last night? I mean, listen, that speech, I don't care what you think of Oprah or her politics. I even made fun of Oprah once officially in a song I wrote about starting a new religion for your mom. But, you know, the truth is everything she said was right on the money about your truth being the most powerful tool that you have at your disposal. That was her golden moment right there when she said that. That is the absolute 100% truth. And she went on to defend and speak out for women and people of color. And she was saying the truth. And that thing, before 24 hours was up, had millions of views, and people are asking her to run for president. So if you don't think saying the truth publicly in a way that's risky is powerful, think again, because it is. It will get you in a lot of trouble, like, you know, in the middle of speculation about a presidential campaign, for instance, on a smaller scale perhaps, or I don't know, maybe you will run for and win the presidency. That would make you officially insane if you tried that, as far as I can tell, but good for you if you have ambition. But listen, there's a lot of great people out there too, and there's people that come down into those tunnels that you dug with lanterns. And they say, look, I know the way out of here. It's this way. And here's something to drink. I know you've been down here a long time. And here's some food. And I got a washcloth. I'm going to clean your face up for you. I'm going to get you a fresh set of clothes. And I'm going to help you out. Back to this humility thing. You got to admit you dug yourself into this tunnel. And then you got to allow somebody else to help you out of it. It's not our favorite thing to do. But you get back up on the surface of the earth again, and you can look back at what you've done, and you can draw a map, and you can say, here is the map of the tunnel system that I dug with my life, and here are some pitfalls you can avoid, and then you can become helpful to someone else who's attempting to do this same thing. You can say, look, this right here is a bad idea. Don't go left right here, go right. This is a bad idea. Don't go deeper, go up. Or that was a great decision. Good job. That's getting you closer to the truth. And that's what mentors do. That's what a church potentially could do for you. That's what, if you're an addict, that's what Alcoholics Anonymous can do. If you need a therapist, that's what your therapist can do. That's what your spiritual director, your pastor, your trusted friends, your parents, if they're healthy people, that's what they can do for you too. And so that's something I've had to learn. I've had to admit in my life that I don't know. And I've had to seek counsel at times from people that are older and wiser than me and lay down some of my wrong-headed ways. And it's so freeing. It's sort of like this painting thing. My wrong-headed thinking about what it meant to be a painter, I finally laid it down. I put aside my fear of judgment about what people might think about me as an artist or my work, and said I'm going for it because I feel this deep in my guts, and my intuition says do this. Now, is it going to change the world? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. The point is, it brings me in touch with who I really am, and that then brings me in touch with my Creator, because He's the one who made me who I really am. So when I do things that are in touch with who I really am, I find God. I find God. And that's where truth-telling will lead you. Because He is truth. He is the embodiment of truth. And so as you align yourself ever more with the highest truth you can conceive, you get closer and closer to the ultimate truth. And the mist begins to clear up. The fog goes away. The questions start to get answers. And you begin to see more clearly. And we don't know for sure anything on this side of eternity. There's absolutely no way anybody who tells you they have cornered the market on the truth, they haven't. And I believe God set it up that way because faith is important. So what is the light at the end of your tunnel? What is the light you can see today? What is the truth you know that you are not aligned with today? Does it mean changing everything, quitting your job, moving, selling your... No, it doesn't. What today is the thing that you know you need to do? Everybody knows. I've discovered this in my work. If I say, hey, you know what, we can save a lot of time in therapy here. Why don't you just tell me the 5 things you know you need to do to change your life, but you're too afraid to do? And people can do it. And you say, well, thank you for being honest. Now, which one of those are you even approximately willing to do? Clean your apartment. Okay, very good. Let's start there. Brush your teeth on a more regular basis. Excellent work. I love it. Some self-care, some self-love. This is a truthful act, you know. So we don't have to have it all figured out and go on this, quest of revolutionizing things right this minute. Remember, it takes a long time to dig yourself into the holes we find ourselves in, and it takes a while to get out again. So you do what you're willing to do. I'm willing to pick up a shovel and move this much dirt today. I'm willing to take a look at this particular habit. Maybe it's just that I exercise. Maybe it's just that I put some green things on my plate today. Maybe it's that I decide to follow through with a threat I made to my children. That not a threat, but parenting. Maybe I'm consistent. That's the word I'm looking for. Maybe I engage in consistent parenting today. Maybe I do my homework. If I'm a college kid, maybe I stop after 1 drink instead of 8 tonight. So that's my invitation. Find out by asking yourself, looking inside yourself, what it is you're willing to do to get in touch with the truth about you today. And you see how I'm not asking you to sign on to a dogma right here? Do you see how I'm not asking you to put your signature on a dotted line? I'm asking you to know what's best for you. Because you do. At least in some ways. You know enough to get started. And I'm pretty sure most of you have an idea of what's not best for you and what you're doing over and over again that is akin to banging your head against the wall. So I will wrap it up. Hey, thank you so much for listening. I cannot thank you enough, really. I mean, it is a genuine pleasure to me to see feedback and comments and look at those videos and see that, enough people have watched them to really make it feel like it's worth my while. And this is a service project for me. I appreciate your support in whatever way that you feel compelled. And I also appreciate your talking about this podcast, sharing it, word of mouth. Help me out. Let's get this thing out there, and let's take a look at ways we can all make this world a better place by starting with numero uno, if you know what I mean. I think we could use a little bit of that Michael Jackson, man in the mirror kind of thinking, So, hey, this is the Heartache Connoisseur. I am signing off. And I will see you tomorrow with the fabulous